Okay, what is good? This is Failfection. I am going to do a quick video on how to create tokens, Cardano tokens, using the Cardano CLI. I think that if you're a developer and you really want to understand the technology, it's gonna be really good to use the CLI and get to know how to do it, because at some point, as the smart contract aspect of things gets further, understanding the nuances of what's going on, I think, is probably very important. Now, if you're just going to be creating the tokens from an art perspective and you're really not into the development thing, you might as well just wait for IOHK to create that GUI token creator, and not even worrying about all of these nuances. But I saw a lot of questions, and I had a lot of questions myself. The documentation is really good for people who are smart and know exactly what's going on, but for people like me who kind of aren't fully knowing the entire environment and whatnot, it takes some of the little pieces that are skipped can cause some misunderstandings and whatnot. So I'm going to try and go through and just do a quick breakdown of some of the main things that helped me understand and get through it, and then I'll just go through an example of how we would actually create something. So the first deal is, I'm not going to explain obviously what they are. Just go Google that if you need to understand what the token is, and at the end of the day, there's plenty of videos out there for that. So if you go through the documentation, I think the first thing that comes up when you're trying to actually do the creation is, here, let's see, a little bit of confusion on how to create a non-fungible token versus creating the fungible tokens. And again, this is probably for the newbies who just don't understand, and that's me included. But first, you need to have a relay node on the network. It needs to be it doesn't need to be producing blocks or anything like that. So it just needs to be on the network and have a updated blockchain, basically. Let's see. And you'll notice that you'll have to identify that we're making a Mary era command. You'll notice also, if you are standing up a new relay node or something like that, if the commands aren't working and it's giving you that error about having the wrong era or something like that, it just means that you haven't synced long enough, most likely. So just make sure it gets fully synced before you start trying to query and use these commands. Okay, so I think the first thing that I ran into with the understanding was just that from a token perspective, my policy or policy ID essentially is what you can use to create as many tokens as you want, whether that's non-fungible or fungible. And again, with the idea of fungible versus non-fungible, one way of creating non-fungible token is to literally you can't pass tokens between other policies, if you will. So a token that is created outside of this particular policy ID, well, it wouldn't be fungible with anything but with that same policy ID, if that makes any sense. The second thing that creates the fungibility is the asset ID. So we have the policy ID and then the asset name, but which really is essentially an asset ID as well. I guess it's hard to say asset ID because the actual token would be more of the ID, but I think you get the gist. Is if we have one policy, we can create as many assets in that policy as we want. We can create 42 of the same asset, or we can list out a whole bunch and say, well, we want asset 1, asset 2, as my asset name 1, my asset name 2, my asset name 3, and we can create one of those for each of them if we really wanted to, right? So if we really wanted a unique art or something like this, we could say my policy.unique art number 1, and just create one of them. Now, the next thing to understand, and I don't see where they talked about it immediately, but they talk about it later, is at some point in these docs, is that you can mint a token whenever you want, depending on the policy. So in general, here, let me go to, let's see, the next section, I think. Oh, here, did I already have it up? Yeah, so when you create a policy, you're creating these scripts that basically say you might need to have certain signatures to verify, or you can lock out the script after a certain amount of time. So the ability to create something from that particular policy. So in this particular case, for example, if we want to be able to create stuff or mint tokens, we can do so as long as it's before this slot 3000 in this particular example. So we would just query what slot we are, figure out how far along we want it to go, and then start minting our stuff. And then when somebody else wants to determine, hey, is this truly a one-time thing, you can't create any more of these, well, they can look at that policy and just verify that, oh, yep, the slot's no longer, has been long past, then there's no ability for them to use that policy and create or mint another token. So that would create ultimately a fungible, a non-fungible token. And then the idea, if you create multiple tokens with the same asset name and the same policy ID, well, they are fungible within each other, but you can still do the limited edition thing. If you only want to allow 42 of this particular token, then time lock your policy after a particular slot or something like that, so people can see that, yep, there's no more that can be possibly minted. So to create the transaction, it's literally just like any other simple moving ADA transaction. You literally just build your raw transaction, and then estimate the fees and basically submit and sign, or sign and submit, and that's literally it. So I think the major confusion for me is just the little nuances between creating a actual non-fungible token versus a fungible token, and that's probably just my misunderstanding and not understanding the technology as a whole. So for anybody who's smart, obviously you shouldn't be even watching this probably, but as far as so that's, I think, one of the main things that I ran into. Now there's little nuances that I also noticed, that I don't know, again, maybe it's just me, but something like this, like you'll find that a lot of the docs, they don't have equal signs. Does that matter? I don't believe it does, but I think it's pretty much replaceable, but things like that can cause confusion for somebody who's new. Most of the examples you'll find early on is you'll see a command or an argument transaction out, and it'll have a space and then the transaction instead of an equal sign. Stuff like that can confuse people. I mean, I don't know how much it matters, but when there's errors and you're trying to hunt for the error, sometimes you might start keying on little things that do or don't matter and have no clue what to do. But again, that's just potentially my own limited understanding of things. So here, let's just go to the actual part where we start drafting. So to create the tokens, like I said, we need that script file. That script file is based off of these. So literally, if you want to, we can say, okay, let's go ahead and I'm gonna call this first dot policy, or let's just do I don't know why I did it like that, but whatever, just in case I had something there already. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and use this as our default. Now you'll see this key hash is here, and so what we have to realize is whatever V key that we want to be available is what we have to use there. And I don't even know if where in this documentation it's here. Let me see if I can find where they generated that key hash. Okay, here we go. This is something again that is not clear, but so they create a new address for the policy itself. I don't know the reasoning behind that. Is it because we want the policy itself to get paid and do transactions, versus technically we don't have to use a policy address. We could technically use whatever payment address that it originally came from as this particular key hash. So I'm not sure, and hopefully somebody who's more adept can provide this answer, but you don't have to create a policy address and hash it. You can just associate it to any address that's valid. But for kicks, we'll just go ahead and kind of do what they're doing on this. Oh gosh, I hate stuff like that. Let's see. I'm just gonna do policy V key, policy S key. So we created our policy V key, policy S key. We have our first policy.script, and I guess I could have done all of this, but whatever. Here, let's just go ahead and so as you can see, I'm creating the key hash based off of the policy V key. But again, any key that you want, V key that you wanted to use to verify can be used in this particular case. And this is kind of where the whole multi-sig thing also can come into play. If you want, you can have this policy V key, and then if you want, you can add another V key from another payment address for whatever reason, and require that to be used for your used for minting. So I can easily just replace this with the value that I just generated. There you go. And so that creates our policy file. All right, so let's go ahead and just build this transaction and just see how we go. So first, of course, you need to make sure that whatever your transaction is actually has enough ADA to be used. Here, let me so let me just kill this. So right now, query UTXO address, and we'll do payment address. So I put in a payment address there, 109.791.1063. Okay, so in this address, I have two different unspent transactions. This is the bigger one, so I can use that as the amount that I want to use. So let's go ahead and use that as our transaction in. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tx in equals blah. Okay, and then let's see, if you notice here, the out, technically we could we have to identify an actual address, not a transaction, and then we would tell it how much ADA we want to send and how many tokens we want to create. And so let's just do amount, and we'll say 5 ADA. Let's just do that. And then let's see, the address that we want to, let's just say that we want to give it to ourself. So we'll just use the same address equals cat. Let's just do that. We need our policy ID. So to create the policy ID, here, let's see, is it even, where the heck is the policy ID thing here? Oh, here it is. Yeah, like this didn't make sense to me. Like mint the new asset, and then it says create policy ID, and it's like, well, the policy ID isn't the asset technically, right? Like it's just the policy for creating or minting assets. So stuff like that just again might just be remedial, but that's going to create our policy ID. So let's just do policy ID. Actually, let's say whatever, policy ID equals, what is it, paste, and I think ours was first Paul. All right. Okay, so we got our policy ID there. So now I think we should be able to build our transaction, our first raw transaction. CLI transaction build raw Mary era in tx in tx out, and we will do address plus the amount that we wanted to send. That was, again, the minimum required, I believe. So we'll test that actually. And then we'll do our policy ID dot, let's say, first coin. And I think that should do it. And we can say mint, and then the same thing. So all we need to do is policy ID dot first coin. Oh, we needed the number of tokens. So we're gonna do, I'm gonna try doing 6, right? So if I do 6, then I'll know 5 ADA technically isn't enough, right? If it's 1 per ADA. So we got 6, we're minting 6 first coins, and TTL 0, fee 0, out file tx.raw. All right, not enough input. Oh, okay. I almost messed up there. So I forgot for these transactions, txn equals blah 1. You need the transaction ID or whatever, I guess. Blah. And value argument 6. Amount. Oh, this is another thing that you know, I'm just kind of remedial at, is knowing when I need quotes and when I don't. All right, expecting hexadecimal digit. Oh, oops. So this is supposed to be cat address. All right. Unexpected. What? Yeah, I swear stuff like this just kills me. So technically, I do not know. Just make sure I'm at. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, oops. So I don't need to cat that. What's the problem then? Address. Invalid argument. 6 blah first coin. Why is that invalid? Oh, plus. And things like this. I don't know if that's allowed. Boom. Okay. Whew. Yeah, see, stuff like that is kind of where my crappiness is. And if you don't know like the little nuances of how the formatting of stuff goes, it can be super frustrating. So you have to put plus in between here. Let me see if that's actually stated somewhere. I don't remember it being stated anywhere, but they do it. So here, let's quickly go back to here. Yeah, they do have pluses in between. Yeah, whatever. So now that's how you kind of draft the transaction. So we have our raw, and now we can estimate our yeah, they don't even do the estimation here, but we can estimate our minimum fee. So let's first go ahead and let me see. Cardano CLI query protocol parameters. Testnet Okay, so oh, I need to output that to out file protocol.json. Just that. All right. Cardano CLI transaction min fee, and then tx body file equals tx.raw. We have one tx in. Oops. We have one tx out. We have one witness. And testnet magic. Programs file, and that was protocol.json. All right, so this is our minimum fee. Just save it there. And then now we can rerun our raw script, except this time we can, oh, actually we need a slot too. So let's see, to get the slot, we'll just figure out, see here. All right, so build raw, so we'll say fee, min fee, actually, was it min fee? Min fee. We will, since we, I wonder what happens if you don't pass it back to, I guess we should, let's just see what happens if I don't pass it. I think it'll, does it get defaulted? No, I'll probably have to. Yeah, that's another thing. So when they generated this, I guess everybody should know, but technically I think you have to give the leftovers to something. It won't automatically give all the leftovers to the same address, will it? I don't know. I guess we'll try it and see. All right, so min fee, and then our time to live will be, let's say 2077, 208000. I think that should work. And then we'll do another route. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense without another out. Yeah, let's just do another out. Let's say, in fact, before I do that, let's try this again, and we'll do transaction out count 2. Is that the same? No, it's a little bit different. All right. So min fee 178437. All right. Now we can build our thing. We're gonna do another transaction out. And this one will just send it to the same address. And we'll do plus, oh, Jesus. This is why I like writing scripts. Let's do, how about we do address plus expression, I think I got the amount up here. Here we go. This minus amount minus min fee. All right, so that should be good for our second transaction out. We have the TTL, we have the min fee. Boom. Oh crap. Can I do that? Am I not allowed to do that? Let me see if that. Okay, cool. All right, so that's our draft transaction. So now we can sign that transaction. tx.wall signing key file, and that, what were we going to use there? Oh, I guess I have to sign with my payment.sk, and then script file. Did I assign whatever it was at first? Paul, and then testnet magic. Whatever that. Where the heck is it? Testnet magic. Testnet magic, and I guess file tx sign. Okay, and then let's go ahead and submit it and see what happens. Cardano CLI transaction submit x file tx.signed testnet magic. Boom. All right. So script witness not a valid from list, and then UTXO outside validity interval invalid before slot. Oh, it's a slot. Did the slot die already? Oops. Oh, oops. Add an additional 0 in there. Let's try this again. Actually, let's make a closer slot. See, it's 7 7 6 0 0. Let's just do that. Is that right? 3 4 5. No. 7 6 0 0 0. All right. Now let's sign that and submit that. Oh, oops. Script witness not validating. Okay. That's probably because we made the signing key. The policy key file. We'll do policy.sk. Boom. Boom. No. Script witness not validating UTXO. Oh, did I not? Here, let me just, I could have screwed up on the policy. What did I put? Oops, all that would do it. All right, so let's change that. Actually, let's do All right, so I just did a TTL for this. So let's just make our first Paul. Let's see, the before, we're gonna change that to the same TTL. All right, now I don't believe, so because I changed the policy, I think I might have to create a new policy ID, I think. Yes, I sure do. All right, so let's create a new policy ID. And now we will just go ahead and build this transaction once again with the new amounts, new min fee, boom. All right, and then we will sign it with the policy key and the payment key, and then we will submit outside interval again. Oh shit, these damn slots are going real fast. Wait a minute. This was supposed to be 7. Okay, sign, submit. There we go. So that, I know that was probably a little painful for people who just are trying to watch and go through, but that's it. So basically that transaction got submitted, and we can look, and there. Oh, there we go already. That was quick. So yeah, so that's it. I went through and did a lot of other testing just to kind of get my bearings on how to transfer and verifying stuff like I didn't verify. I mean, I did, but you guys didn't see it. I did check to make sure that that policy that we created at the 777 time interval, or the slot number, trying to mint a coin after that, it of course failed. And actually you guys saw that in the beginning when I accidentally forgot to modify that value, and it said like 3,000 was the slot number that it had to be minted before. Well, that was why I was running into one of those errors in the beginning, was because that policy wasn't letting us mint anything. So clearly that policy does work, and it's obvious that if we really wanted to, we could just create a number of coins in that single policy, and we can just mint one of them for each one of the coin asset names that we wanted, and that would essentially be a non-fungible token, a single issue non-fungible token, as long as we let that slot number expire in a reasonable amount of time, so that people can see that it can no longer be added to. So that is it. You'll find that, you know, because I'm new and to this whole technology, that, you know, I might run into stupid mistakes and whatnot, but going through and actually making those errors is really where it helps. Like, you know, you can see that these, if you're not familiar, these transaction errors are sometimes a little difficult to understand if you haven't read them or haven't ran into them. But once you start running into them more and more, you kind of start keying in on what the issue is pretty easily. Like, this is super obvious validity outside validity interval. Once you know it, it's like, okay, yeah, that's outside of the slot number or whatever. So there's lots of learning, I think, that is involved in trial and error and just going through and testing things out for yourself. So with that said, hope you guys got something from it. If you have questions, post some comments, hit me up on the forums, and if you think that you wouldn't mind another, dummy style video that just walks through some of the like transferring the assets or anything like that, or anything else that you think would be useful, just let me know, and I'll probably want to do it, just because I'm going to do it for myself, so might as well show everyone else what I'm running into as well. All right, that's all I got. Take it easy.